Hey, welcome. This is Guillotine Productions Talk Radio. I have a great guest today, Marianne. I've been a fan of her work for a while, watching her online. She's put out some videos. She's been in the groups typing about different things. Um, I'm a big fan, and I'll just let her introduce herself here. How did you get into magic, and what's your background?
So I got into magic from what I know is I am at least third generation born into occultism, we'll say. My grandmother started me off like right out of diapers, basically. Yeah, she gifted me my first book when I was like 7 years old. It was typical stuff that she taught me, very easy things like tea leaves, and some of it was card readings, but like not tarot necessarily, kind of like the Ace of Spades type readings.
Card readings, yeah, that's
Yes. So she was Irish heritage. She had a lot of stories from Ireland about the banshees, witches, the fae, all that. So I had gained a lot of knowledge from my grandmother on my father's side. However, my mother was extremely secretive. I didn't even know my mother was involved with any occultism until I was in my late 20s. And then finding out more, my mother has a tie to Lord Belbazub, and her mother also followed. Anyways, my grandmother was an occultist, but extremely secretive. Like, I didn't even know anything about this until 10 years ago. With my mother's side of the family, I had a cousin when I was about 13. That's when I will say the real stuff began. That's when I was taught to become like a seer. I don't like to tell people a lot about this kind of stuff because it's, first of all, it's extremely personal, and then there is some kind of trauma that goes with it because, as you know, when you're forced at a young age to kind of be the seer, a lot of the stuff is not stuff you really want to see.
oh yeah.
So,
For myself, I relate completely with that because I don't know if you've probably heard my story before, but maybe some people that are seeing this for the first time haven't. That my grandfather died in front of me when I was 7 years old, and basically that was my introduction to necromancy and or seerism, if you want to say what it's, the whole thing, because his spirit went through me, and then he came back when I was going to sleep, trying to sleep at night, and I was freaking out and everything, and then I eventually got used to talking to him, and he would say, don't tell people you see me, because and stuff like that, and it's a very secretive, because in the United States, in LA where I was raised, and you're saying Ireland, a lot of those things were still very frowned upon, even though they didn't burn witches anymore. You still could get in a lot of trouble. Still could get dragged in front of a church or something like that. I was told when I confessed that I talked to my grandfather that that's wrong and you're practicing necromancy, and I think I was maybe 11 at that time, and a pastor told me that. So I completely can relate. So go on. So yeah. So as you said, what was the age that you really got into it? Was it around?
it was around 13.
13.
She was older than me, so she reared me into the more, what is the right word to say? She reared me into the harder things, but also the things that truly are paranormal. For instance, I won't forget the first time she introduced me to a Ouija board. Something happened. I'm not sure. I can't really, I don't even have the right words because there aren't words to explain the situation. But basically, we somehow had opened up kind of like a portal. Because in all honesty, a Ouija board is kind of like opening up a portal,
For sure.
drawing in entities, sometimes not always the greatest ones, but you're drawing in entities that are able to manipulate in a physical manifestation. So yeah, 13, she started me with Ouija board. We did she started me professionally doing the tarot card readings, and this is where I started learning about trance. Some people in voodoo will say like minor possession, where you kind of I don't know the specific words, but I'm just going to say how it is for me. You allow your body to become fully open, and the spirits will come into you, and the message is relayed to the person, whatever is needed, whether it be if there's going to be a car accident or there's going to be, something. I'm just using that as an example. I'm not saying that particularly happened, but there were some things that she needed me to do. Anyways, yes. So professionally at 13, and I carried on up until my 20s, and then I said I can't do it anymore, and I didn't, and I still don't. Unless, like I said, unless there is a calling, something beyond human, something beyond this realm, something's calling me to do it. So that's where I'm at with that right now. But I've been something like how some people will call it a medium. I saw my first spirit when I was just a little child, and I'll never forget it. It was a man. He walked right past me, and I remember screaming. But I also remember my grandmother being comforting, and then also telling me about her own stories, because my grandmother was also extremely in tune with spirits. She could hear. She was clairvoyant. She was also clairsentient. She could hear. That is something sometimes I have extreme difficulty with. So this woman, she taught me a lot. My grandmother was much more open on my father's side, the Irish one, into telling me about spiritualism, occultism, paranormal, if you have you. Yeah, so she reared me with a lot of the uncertainty, because it is scary. I mean,
Yeah.
being a child, when you first experience this, it will change you forever, because some people, they go their whole life and they never get to see these entities.
Mm-hmm.
So to be like one of the people that are able to, there's very few people you can really even talk to about this stuff too.
Oh, that's why I was mentioning before, like that's why I felt it was more of a genuine experience, because my grandfather and the other spirits that came would say, don't tell people that you see.
Yeah.
And then they would say, basically they gave me the impression, which I agree with this, that the whole asylum system and really the whole mental health system is just a continuation of the witch trials, because I mean, people that saw spirits back before, they would burn at the stake or whatever, they would do that. If you saw spirits in the 1920s, they would put you in a hospital, sedate you, maybe stick an ice pick in your eye and scramble your brains and give you a lobotomy or shock therapy, or I mean, basically anybody who was weird or saw things, they were saying it's an hallucination, it's a problem, and you need some kind of like serious, like, well, essentially it came down to torture. I mean, the asylums, most of that stuff was torturous.
It was
So they would
terrible.
drug people. So I mean, I consider the whole asylum system, basically just a softer, kinder, gentler way of the witch trials. They just and it wasn't just people who hallucinated. I mean, it's horrible if a woman was assaulted sexually and got pregnant out of wedlock. They could be declared morally degenerate and put in an asylum, and the baby given to a rich couple or something, and they may end up getting a lobotomy or getting just tortured, or who knows what would happen to them. So it was just really the whole asylum system. I don't really like the whole mental health system even today, but I consider myself neurodivergent, which I think is more of looking at things that I see things differently. I see things, I notice things differently. People can call it ADHD, they can call it PTSD, they can put labels on it, but
Yep.
I don't consider them disorders. I consider them our powers.
Truly.
Yeah, that's how that's another reason, that we have to be underground still, and even today, if people do say, go around saying, I see this spirit, I see that, and a lot of times people will just say you're just laugh about it or make a joke, but some people could seriously get put in an asylum, drugged, or take their freedom could be taken away for that. It's our thing. Yeah.
Can I tell you a little secret?
Sure.
My mental, and I am very proactive about mental health. My mental health doctor, is an occultist. She is affiliated with the Lima. So that just goes to show you, she went to Harvard Medical School. So I have to say too, I've been extremely fortunate dealing with doctors, because my mother, who, like I said, I didn't even know she was involved in it. For a long time, there was a lot of gaslighting. There was a lot of like, there's something wrong with you. But I remember being maybe 15, and I remember telling a therapist about what some of the things that I saw, especially the things that were, I don't want to keep blabbing on, but for a long time, I also suffered from sleep paralysis, some other stuff, that would come to me, especially at nighttime in my sleep. And
that's what I was diagnosed with, because I said my grandfather came back when I was sleeping. Really, you're getting theta state, and that's a state where people can see spirits better, but people call it sleep paralysis. That's just like saying somebody who sees spirits is hallucinating or schizophrenic or whatever. I mean, they label these as disorders, as disease.
Absolutely.
But they're really powers. I mean, that's so I'm sorry. Go on. I just wanted to add that.
All I wanted to say was that I remember this woman telling me she believed me. And I remember her saying to me that even though we were in a medical building and she was a doctor, she doesn't have the answers for some of these things that I was telling her about. And it was profound as a young person to hear somebody who is, a doctor's idolized in my eyes. It was always something I wanted to be. Her telling me that she believed in what I saw. And I think that was a time where it allowed me to be who I was without hiding from people.
Mm-hmm.
It was, I won't forget that.
Yeah.
And yes.
Yeah, and we do have a lot more freedom in this day and age, and we can do shows like this and not get put down. I think all of the government programs, most of them, the asylum system. I even think the war on drugs is a continuation of the witch trials. Because I mean, if you think about it, what do you think they thought? They thought that the witch was brewing in the cauldron was medicine, but really they would say drugs, hallucinogens. They're drug dealers, right? Now, commonly they say they're drug dealers, right? But that back then they would say, oh, they're just brewing up either poisons or things that got you high. So in the whole war on drugs, I mean, all the programs really are based around people that are like, I guess for lack of a better word, weird or not normal or neurodivergent or whatever, something that just doesn't fit into society. That's just not mundane. It's not. I call them mundanes or normals or whatever.
Yeah.
Those people aren't the worst people or whatever, but they want everybody to be like that. And if you're not like that, they would stick you in asylums, prisons, burn you at the stake, torture you. I mean, there's all these things that they would do.
Absolutely.
So that's the thing. But so mentioning that, so we're in 2023, so we don't have to worry about getting burned at the stake or asylum, hopefully. We were talking earlier, this is a new year, and you were saying that this is the year of the rabbit or the hare.
Yes.
And that's an important symbol to you. So I wanted you to expand on that. What are your ideas on that? This being the year of the rabbit.
So this is not my background, but something that I've ventured to. That's another thing that I forgot to mention. I've been studying astrology since, my grandmother put me towards astrology when I was 7-8 years old. I was already learning at a young age. So astrology is something I love. I highly believe in the cosmic entities. So this year was the year of the tiger. We're now transitioning on the 21st of this month into the year of the rabbit. Some of the things this year, how I feel as a collective, as us all, things are going to be a little bit different this year. So there's, of course, we all know there's a war going outside we can't see, but this year will spread a headlight on fertility. I see abundance in reproduction. Because something is happening. And again, there's a spiritual war going on that is attacking the reproduction of human beings.
I would say even
this year is
thought process of the reproduction, not the physical reproduction, but the thoughts. Our thoughts are being suppressed a lot with different things, like we were talking earlier about someone like the ultra woke movements or getting censored online and things like that. I mean, it's almost like I've had a lot of members, close friends, and my stepfather and family members commit suicide, and you can't say suicide on YouTube without getting demonetized and all that. You have to say unlife, which is like, suicide's real. People do that. They've done it. I want to do a show on how to prevent suicide, but just saying I want to do a show how to prevent suicide. I want to talk about the suicides in my life. That demonetizes me, and people will put a negative light just on that. They're making us change our language and saying, so people are saying unlife, or instead of saying rape, they say SA for sexual assault, or they say grape instead of rape. I mean, they're changing it so they don't just the algorithms don't catch it, demonetize and put a negative connotation on your videos so it doesn't get put out, which is that's where I was seeing. I'm not sure if you're going in the same direction. I was seeing that's it's almost like it's unfertilizing our minds in a way, you know what I mean?
Yes. Go on.
Oh, no, I was just going to say that so that's one aspect. The aspect that I see in 23, and it ties into the rabbit also, is that the rabbit is a like trickster god, and 23 is the chaos number. For you can make your own ideas on why it's 23 is, but 23 is the chaos number, and so the trickster god can come in and find tricks around these like censorship things and stuff like that, and be able to ride the chaos through, this stuff, because I think it's going to be, I mean, that even censorship is a form of chaos. Like I see, it's kind of like order becoming chaos, because it's chaotic to change the language to say something so serious like suicide. And I'm sure I don't even get monetized, but I'm sure this video will probably get a negative thing just because I'm saying this word, and talking about how to prevent that, because that happened. My stepfather did that, and my friends overdosed, and there's I've got like at least 50 people real close to me that did this. So, but chaos comes in, and it has a way to work around that, to play around that, and I think, in the end, that's the war. The way that I see it is it's censorship. People trying their intentions are good, but it's like the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Their intentions are good. They don't want people talking about. They don't want people to say, "Hey, you should you should do that," or whatever. They don't want people, and the algorithms don't know. So I think the algorithms, there's that's like the war. Is the creativity to get around the censorship, the creativity to get around the algorithms and the AI. That's going to be like the war. And I see that I see 23 as being a huge year for me. I got a lot of plans. I had a really horrible transition myself personally. I had a lot of tragedy going into this year, and the last 3 years, I think, for all of us were pretty bad. I mean, with COVID, and 2020 was bad for everybody. I think 21, 22, the last 3 years were just horrible. I think for everybody. I don't think anybody could say they had a great time. Maybe some people, but not me. So I see 23 as a new beginning, and we're already, because of the 3 years, I think we're kind of in an oppressive state, but the 23 for me is the chaos that we're going to be able to get through it that way. And I think in the end, it'll be better. We'll find ways, and we'll find ways to persevere and be resilient and get past the censorship and the stuff that's holding us back, and the just really the dichotomy. We're in like a reactionary world. You know what I mean? Like people don't even they don't have spirited debates anymore. Like I like to debate, and I'll say something and people will just like say, some kind of insult or some kind of abusive ad hominem, like you're racist, or you're just saying that because you're like a privileged white person, or you're just saying that because this, or we looked you up and you did this in 2003 or whatever, right? There's no like, that doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter if I did do something bad or I regret in 2003, which I don't know of anything that I did, but that's the state we're in. We're not in a state where people are using their minds. They're using this reactionary, and sometimes my videos will be about something totally else, but a reactionary person will come and put some bad comments, and people will just say, oh, that video is about how dangerous the clubs are or whatever in LA, because I do clubs, because I'm in LA, club videos. And so I think that's how I see it. So that's what I'm getting from you. But I mean, go on. Do you have any other ideas on this?
the old gods are here. I mean, they're here. Um, one of the Egyptian gods who is classified as prehistoric, right? Prehistoric. Um, when it you could pronounce it either way.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Names.
she is a goddess who is worshipped by Thoth,
Mm-hmm.
and she was the godhead rabbit. Um, she also, I believe, hold on, I believe the counterpart will say, like, so, like, Celtic, we say, like, father or goddess. Her male counterpart would be Osiris.
Mm-hmm.
And which is interesting is that he symbolizes fertility.
Mm-hmm.
He also symbolizes, because of his green skin, he symbolizes rebirth. And what's interesting about the Egyptian culture with that god particularly, but somehow oddly ties into the Celtic in Norse and Germanic um, mythology, is that the hair is also associated with the green man.
Mm.
And he's also, Aphrodite is associated with the rabbit. Um, Ostara. Who else? Hermes. That was another one. I didn't know this. I started researching a little bit because, I wanted to know more about, I wanted to get some messages in. And Hermes, who is one of, like, the dearest spirits I can even think of, his the sacred animal to him was the hare.
Mm-hmm.
So this year I see a lot of the old ways coming back, truth coming back. I don't know what else you want me to say.
Oh, no. I mean, I'm getting. I mean, I think we're on the same page for sure with that. With me, I see, even with the with my Native American views and stuff, that the hair is like the trickster god. So I see that the rabbit will be able to trick. Will be able to come up with tricks to get around this because we're kind of in an oppressive state. Even though we were talking about we're not in a state where people are saying we're crazy, we're crazy or mentally ill because we're practicing witches or whatever necessarily, but people are like still trying to like censor and oppress thought and say and do things like that. And being part of the trickster, myself, I consider myself Heyoka, and I was born breech, so everything's backwards, and in English we would say a sacred clown. And I joke around a lot and do things like that, and find jokes around things and find tricks around things, and I think that's what's going to be the main thing. And I always operate like that, but I think in particular I'm going to have to come up with a system of getting around this, because I've got a lot of projects, and I really like where you're coming with the unity of all the different mythologies. Do you I in particular, I'm trying to unify Christianity and Gnostic Christianity, and even the kind of like the problem child, like Selima, which I consider a Christian religion. I even consider witchcraft, a Christian religion, because it is. I mean, that was a word. Witch was not a. It's not like a. It's a word that was put in the Bible, and that's what they used, and Satanism even. I mean, it's using that current. It's just flipping it around, and saying, well, we want to look at it a different way or something like that. So that's one of my big projects. Do you have any projects that you're working on in 2023 like that?
So I told you, like, I ended up getting a job working for, Gillette Stadium, doing the Patriots stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll probably continue just working my mundane job, because at the end of the day, I like money too. So
I wouldn't say it's that mundane. The describing it, I mean, you're setting up the lights and putting on these things. I mean, that makes adults, children, all kinds of people happy, smiling, and that's magic. I mean, that's magic. You're causing people. We're like in a culted state, and we don't really like that. That's why I like chaos magic so much. It's like when we go to a movie and we come out of the movie and we're like excited or happy about what we saw in the movie, or like a light show you're saying, or whatever, an event. Yep. We're happy that changes our minds. That's a ritual, and we don't look at it that way because it's like it's occulted, and we just look at it like, oh, we just went to a movie. But I mean, the movie, it's just shadow and lights. It's not it's not like some real person up there doing anything. These are like, this is illusionism, right? But people get their feelings changed. People could get inspired, and they could write a novel based on a light show that you helped put on, right? So I think I wouldn't call it mundane. I wouldn't put it down at all like that. I mean, like I said, I live in California. I don't go to the theme parks a lot or whatever, but a lot of people, and myself included, I like to, consider myself kind of like pop magic, and look at like going to a movie. It's a ritual, I mean, going to a theme park, it's a ritual, putting like for example, like Hecate, I associate with Lana Del Rey. And so like I get, instead of like, having to like, get an old statue or something and try to think about what people maybe 300 years ago listened to someone Hecate, I just listen to Lana Del Rey. And if I want Morrigan, I get PJ Harvey. So I mean, I get music, modern music, and put it towards that. And I think that's my form of chaos magic, So I get where you're coming from with that. I think it's great. People should, and maybe that's something, that in the future, me and you could talk about more and work on is how people could see what their so-called mundane job and how that helps people magically, though, because everything is magic. I think, and I wouldn't say it's just like, it's just like just a light show, because you could inspire a child to invent something, to invent a spacecraft or something, be based on the beauty and the experience they had.
So I guess why I use mundane is because I really used to have a job where I really practiced magic. And so now I'm not at a job where my job includes part of magic. It feels mundane. But I retired from adult entertainment at 28 years old, and I can tell you that it was all magic, baby. It was all magic. Illusion and ritual, and it was all magic. So, and sometimes I miss it. It's very weird. I'm married. I have children, but you have such a power when you captivate. When you really truly captivate a human. I guess I missed that a little bit.
Yeah,
going back.
Actually, we could do a whole nother show on that, and even have a couple other women on, because I've talked to other women about that, and some of that, that I think more acceptance of erotic entertainment, or whatever you want to call it, like that, can help all the problems we have with like sexual assault and rape and stuff like that. I mean, because we're so oppressed with this and that, and it's all these hang-ups and things like that. That's a lot of times when things go wrong in those areas, I think. And I think that if those things opened up more, and I'm talking to some other and then there's sex magic, there's things like that. So I think that could be like a whole panel. And I'm sure it would be huge with it. People would love that because but I mean, I think that's a big solution, because that's one of the things that I actually recently got in, which I think my words were twisted around or whatever, they have a term in LA saying, a safe space, right? Safe spaces, right? And,
Yep.
And so they put up like these posters and say, this is a safe space. No, none of this, none of that, none of this. Don't do this, don't do that. And so, but still things were happening, right? Obviously.
Yeah.
I myself and some other club people, because I work security in places, and I go to the clubs a lot, and I work with the staff and all that in LA. And some of these clubs are, they're illegal underground clubs. They start at 2:00. They sell alcohol when they're not supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have licenses. There's openly doing drugs. There's BDSM. There's stuff like that, right? So I did a video and said, honestly, people need to be responsible for their own personal safety, because whatever you do, if you go with somebody who's going to help you, or yourself how to, and you probably know from working in the past, yourself how to push people back, or use magic to if somebody is doing something that's not appropriate, or doing something that's sexually assaultive, or something that they don't have consent for. There needs to be different ways, because I'm just basically just saying, if people think that bouncers, security, or police especially are going to save them, that's just an illusion. That's giving people false hope. And when people go there, they think they're safe, but they're really not. And you can put up a sign, you can put up signs all over the place, and you think of somebody who's really a predator, or has bad intentions, are going to follow the signs, are going to be like, oh, the sign's there, I can't do it. I mean, so that was a big thing that I got in, and it was controversial. Hopefully I think they tried to cancel me or something like that, but I think everything's okay now. When I explained it, I did a few videos on it, and telling people we should have a council of people, because some of the things were, some DJs were had a reputation for just feeling that they could just go up to any woman and just start groping them and stuff like that, which is because DJs in LA, a lot of them get put on pedestals, so there's a lot we could do, and that's a whole nother show, we're reaching where I got to do only a 30-minute show for my format and everything. But next show, I definitely want you to come on again. I hope you enjoyed this.
I did.
Maybe even bring other women in. I think I can have up to 10 people on, and we could talk about people's different experiences and what they do. I know most, because I worked in clubs and stuff like that. I know women who work in adult entertainment or whatever. They have a way to just say, stop, back off, and if they just, their tone and the way they do, men usually do that, and then plus it gets attention of everybody else. So there's ways, that and that's magic too. Everything's magic, but that's
a little bit secret though. I'll tell you. It helps when you have other spirits with you, working with you.
Yeah.
I couldn't have done it on my own.
Yeah.
Where I have, and I've always, I will say this too. I owe everything to my spirit family.
Mm-hmm.
The spirits that So when I was a child, when I was a baby, real quick, so what happened was I didn't even know this. A Sikh came and told me that I was supposed to die as an infant. From what I understand is somehow I didn't die, and in that moment, or fate changed, I was adopted. The other side adopted me and took me as their own. Now, I don't expect anybody to watch this. Believe me, you don't have to. This is just my own personal truth in what has occurred in my life. And I just want to give all respect and all homage to my spirit family.
Yeah, and me too. I have a spirit family, and I agree totally. But this was great. We got to do this again. We'll do this again, and we'll come up with this other subject. I love it. I mean, I've been talking to another woman, a couple of different women, and we're talking about this subject of ending. It's hard because sometimes passion takes over, or men assume that if they touch a woman in one place, they can touch them anywhere, and there's different things. So we'll have a whole show on that. I mean, I definitely want to get into that more, and that's it's a subject that needs to be addressed. And hopefully, I'll get more women. You'll be on it, more women, so it's not just some guy talking about it, because people might think, well, he's the guy who does it, but anyway,
Magic is amazing.
We have to do this again, and thanks for being on. And
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, bye.
Bye.